In this video, we're going to talk about urban wildfires and specifically what I'm going to do in my garden. Normally we're in my garden, but today we're going to be hanging out in my office. I can't tell you what you're going to do, but I will share all the questions I'm asking and the resources I am referring to come to a conclusion of how I should proceed in my garden. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Chai-Ming. I'm a garden designer and educator here in Los Angeles, California. And if you've been paying attention to the news, you know that we have urban wildfires going on right now, and they're continuing to burn at the time of this recording. So I wanted to make this video because I think for those of us who still have our homes, but we are still affected by smoke and ash rain, we still have to take action for our own precautions and safety at home. This video is so hard to make because I feel like it's so unfair that the world doesn't stop for those who are suffering, that have lost their homes. It doesn't feel fair that I still have a garden, that I still have my home, that I'm in an area in Los Angeles where the fires didn't burn and I did not have to evacuate. But I wanted to create this video because those of us who still have our homes and gardens, we still need to take precautions and be safe because of the ash and the smoke. So first, I want to start with, this is not a regular wildfire. This is a very urban wildfire. I'm pulling information from UCANR. They did a study over the course of 3 years, sampling soil in an area that was affected by an urban wildfire. So unfortunately, we do have a data point, but there is a caveat in their reporting that every wildfire is different. So yes, there was a wildfire. Yes, they were able to get conclusions from their experiments over 3 years. However, they say every wildfire is different. And I know from living in Los Angeles that the areas that are burning are more dense. I don't know the areas specifically of where they pulled their samples, but I do know that LA is more dense. And what that means is our buildings, the vehicles, the infrastructure, everything that burned and is still burning, it releases toxic chemicals and can contaminate our soil, our water, and can harm our gardens. And sometimes it could make homegrown produce unsafe if we don't learn, if we don't read, if we don't listen and prepare. I'm asking myself questions like, how far am I from these fires? And I did the mapping and I'm about 10 miles from one fire and I'm 20 miles from another. But I still see ash rain. And I've seen chunks almost as big as a quarter fall down. And now I'm seeing a lot of just little dust particles. The fire at this point in time is only 45% contained for one, and I'm not sure about the other. So in addition to how far am I from these fires, I am also looking at what is my budget and also how much time do I have. If I were to be extremely conservative, I would want to scrap everything. However, I live far enough that that might be excessive and I don't need to do that. And I definitely don't have the funds to do that. So with that said, what am I going to do? I've taken about a week watching and learning and reading to see what is it that I need to do. I have clients that are asking me, what should they do? Can they eat the vegetables that they've grown? Some of my clients are maybe 5 miles away from the fire. Some are even further, which is great, the ones that are in Orange County. I've advised that at the minimum, they have to rinse everything really, really well. But also, I wouldn't know if it came from something toxic or something that wasn't toxic. So I am erring on the side of caution, and if it has ash, I need to be able to wash it off. Now, with that said, this beautiful cauliflower I grew, there's a lot of nooks and crannies, and I cannot get all of the ash off. So as much as it pains me, I am erring on the side of caution. Now, this is going to upset some people. It might even upset you. But sorry, not sorry on this one. I would not compost it. I would not compost personally for my own garden because of proximity, the ash that I see, and the potential risk. To me, that is not worth putting into my soil and not understanding what's going on. So I can't tell you what to do, like I've mentioned, and I will say it over and over, but I am choosing not to compost. And I know this rubs me the wrong way. I normally compost everything. At least I give it to my chickens or I put it into the city green bin, but I'm not going to do that. And I might get backlash for it, but here's why. I saw with my own eyes cars and buildings burnt down. And I'm not a rocket scientist, but I've seen the houses that are burnt. I have seen the cars, and just thinking on my own that what is being burnt is safe to breathe, safe to eat, and I can't tell the difference between ash that is from a brush fire or something natural versus something toxic. And because of that, I am choosing to not give this to my chickens, not to compost. Because what happens when you compost is you are collecting materials and they start to break down and accumulate. And when you accumulate more and more and more, then those chemicals don't necessarily leave. I don't have means to properly test every single garden bed that I have because one garden bed could drastically be different from the next. When you're talking about soil testing, it's not your regular soil testing where you're like, oh, does it have enough nutrients? This is the serious stuff, at least in my opinion, and how I'm trying to take precautions. I have not gardened all week because one, the air quality, and two, I wasn't sure on what my next steps will be, but it's been a week. I've been reading and I think I have a plan. And my plan is I'm going to harvest anything that is leafy, and that goes to the trash. I also teach at a local school garden, and I was going to have the children come and help me take down the plants and dispose of them. However, that was before I did all of this research on urban wildfires, what was available on UCANR. And after reading this, I wouldn't want my children touching it without gloves or potentially inhaling any ash that comes off of the plants. So I'm going to go in and take it out myself. It just doesn't feel right to make that decision for the students. We won't have any more garden class for a few weeks, so hopefully the ash rain stops and we will replant and things will be back to normal. Now, as for the soil, I am far enough where there isn't a ton of ash, there's some. So what I'm going to do is remove what I can from my soil. I'm not going to throw all the soil out. I don't think where I live that's necessary. At certain points, the Watch Duty app did flag neighboring areas, but mine was never in the red. Now, for my clients who are in the red zones, I am recommending that they add new soil on top and removing any ash that they do see. I'm also recommending that they toss out their leafy greens, not to compost again, because I don't feel right recommending keeping and composting when we don't know enough about what is actually burning and the ramifications. So the study that I'm referring to was actually based on the fires in October 2017. And the results and the videos that were published did not happen until 3 years later in November of 2020. So I do think there's going to be a lot more information, but that's not going to happen immediately. The fires need to stop first, then they need to come in and test, and I don't think we can all sit around and wait for that. So that's why I am making this video. I also think that those of us who have been gardening for a while, we know how to nurture, we know how to be patient, we know how to be resilient and try season after season, and we're going to tap into all of that, especially if you're here in the Los Angeles region, or if you experienced an urban wildfire before, or hopefully not, but in the future, and you find this video. I'll be wearing disposable rubber gloves, I'm going to be wearing a mask, I'm going to wear a hat, and also tie my hair back so I don't get particles into my hair. And then when I get home after clearing the garden, I will be removing all of that, disposing, and rinsing everything off. If you garden already, you know that every time we're in the dirt, it gets everywhere. Anytime we are pruning, things fall off of the plant and get onto us. So I do think wearing a mask is really smart right now, just because we don't know exactly what is in the air. Just a couple days ago, all the public libraries are handing out N95 masks. So if you need to get a mask, find an LA library. The locations are listed online and you can get a free mask. I think when it comes to edible gardening, I think the risk is higher. The whole point of growing our own food is having the knowledge and control of what goes into our food. And that goes to say, when it feels unsafe, then we need to scrap it. Normally when I go through the garden, I will just pick something and eat it right there. But I would say the rest of 2025, I will rinse it, just because there could be some residual things that I just don't know, and I would feel better knowing that I washed it off before ingesting. And I have drip irrigation in most of my areas, and I'll continue to do that, just because if it's drip irrigation, there is no splash, there's less likelihood of anything that was possibly in the soil splashing on somewhere else or onto me. And then when it comes to rinsing produce, I'm going to have running water, and rather than soaking, because if you're soaking it, the water will pass through the plant membrane. But that's a whole different conversation. One other thing to do is a home veggie wash. It's 1 to 10 vinegar to water, and just to rinse your veggies like that. So what I'm not doing is jumping in and gardening. Normally before the fires, I would just go outside and start gardening, or I would just swing by my garden and do a little here and there. But I want to go in with a plan with proper protection, because there's still ash and the fires are still burning. Speaking of ash, it's everywhere. I do see a thin layer of ash on my concrete, on my greenhouse. So I'm gonna rinse all of that. Typically, I would use a leaf blower first and then rinse, but there is a leaf blower ban right now because of all the particulates in the air, and when you use a leaf blower, it just blows everything, and you can't differentiate what is harmful dust and what is safe dust. I mean, actually, I don't know if any dust is safe. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing, is suiting up, coming up with the plan, and then really it's cleaning and throwing things out. I'm already flooded with opinions on what to do and what not to do. And like I said, I can't decide for you, but I'm deciding just for myself and sharing what we're doing. I'm already seeing a lot of hacks. I'm seeing supplements pushed. I'm seeing all of these things, but I would caution sticking to sources like UCANR and medical doctors to get my information and how I'm going to proceed. Okay, so for my clients and for my own garden and the school garden, the first thing we're doing is we're gonna assess. I'm going to walk the site when it's safe. That means there's no active fire nearby, there's not crazy winds that are going to blow ash and smoke into your face, into your lungs. I'm going to look to see what plants were damaged, how they were damaged, and where all the ash is accumulated, and see how we can remediate that. And depending how the ash is, I will decide on how we're going to take care of it. Most likely we will just hose down, because again, I'm further away from the active fires. If you were evacuated or if you were flagged to be in one of the danger zones for fire spreading, I would highly recommend submitting a soil test professionally and not just a DIY test, because some of these tests can measure toxicity of your soil. When I took the soil class for my UCLA horticultural program, the recommendation was Wallace Labs, and they are local to Southern California. They are familiar. I'm sure they will have great data points for you. And I think there are a few soil test options. I'm recommending to my clients is to not rush, especially those who are closer to the fires. I'm having them ask the questions like, do they need to remediate their soil professionally? Do you want to hire someone who is a professional in fire ecology to better prepare for potential future events like this? And really, I'm asking, is it a priority right now to fix your garden? Gardening is my job, so I do have to fix my garden. It's not something that I can wait on, but maybe it's not your job and there are other priorities like getting an emergency kit together. That budget should probably come first before something in your garden, even though it might not be as fun. And I'm just gonna say, when in doubt, throw it out. And there's no risk that's worth it. The articles that are coming out about the potential toxins, the things in the air that we might potentially ingest are just not worth it. That head of lettuce or that kale, yes, it costs you a certain amount to buy. Maybe it was a seedling for $2 to $4. Let's say it's $6 even for a seedling. So for any edibles that are annuals, I'm scrapping for the season and saying, you know what? It's not worth it. There is no produce that is grown at my house or in my student gardens or, in my opinion, in my client gardens that is worth the risk of keeping and eating. It's gonna hurt throwing some of these plants out. So I am going to keep my berries, but I'm going to strip them from any fruit that's on there right now, because if Ash touched it, you can't scrub a berry, it just disintegrates. Also, I'm going to disbud. As much as it hurts me to take the flowers off, I don't want toxins that touch the flowers to get into my flower that turns into fruit and then eventually I eat. I don't normally go to these lengths, but because we're dealing with urban wildfires and this is an unprecedented situation for Los Angeles, every wildfire is different and there's just too many unknowns with toxic chemicals right now. So here's the good news. Soil can be remediated most of the time, but it needs time, a lot of time. You do that by increasing organic matter, making an environment that's suitable for beneficial microorganisms to come in, but really you just need a lot of time to let nature heal. It could be years. So just to be extra careful, I'm going to be planting my edibles in containers. I will wash the containers. I have some green stock planters that I will be washing and setting those up. I have a lettuce grow that I'm going to be using for hydroponics and leafy greens, and we're gonna just go from there. Of course, I'll make videos and share all the things that I'm doing. So this is all I have for post-urban wildfire gardening. At the time of this recording, on January 15th, 2025, in terms of wildfire relief, I also wanted to share that I will donate $1,000 of my future Amazon affiliate income. So please shop the links below. It costs you nothing. My goal is to find someone who doesn't have a big network and does not have a large donation from GoFundMe's, etc., and could really use this help. So I'll link my Amazon storefront below, and if you could just take a look, just clicking on it helps me raise money to donate. I'd love to hear your experience if you've been through a wildfire like this and you have some experience in your garden on how you restored it. And if you watched this video and it spurred some questions, let's have a discussion and help each other navigate what it looks like after a fire. So stay tuned and I'll see you in the next one.